If you've been around long enough, you might remember my '07 Accord V6, Betty White. I talked endlessly about how I wanted that car to be a 6-speed manual, or I wish I bought one of those. Today I've found one of the holy grails of the 7th gen Accords. 2006 Honda Accord V6 manual. This Accord belongs to my friend Karna. It's a 2006 Accord V6 EXL manual, also known as the 6.6 in carbon bronze pearl. So of course you could get your 7th gen back in 2006 with a manual transmission, but you could get two different engine or transmission options. Today we're just going to be talking about the 6.6. Man, so this is really a nostalgia trip for me. This is the J30A5. It's a 3-liter single overhead cam V6, also known as one of Honda's J series V6 engines. You'll find this in Honda products, Acura products, and even a Saturn. But this engine makes 240 horsepower and 212 pound-feet of torque. And of course, because this is the 6.6, it's paired to a 6-speed manual transmission and an open front diff. If you want a spicy 6-speed manual V6 sedan from Honda back in, the mid-2000s, I'd look at the TL Type S because you could get an LSD with those. But these engines are known to be pretty bulletproof and reliable. I mean, Honda puts them in the Odyssey, Pilot, MDX. Literally everything with the V6 back in 2006 had some form of this engine. These use timing belts, and I'd replace it every 80 to 100,000 miles. Also, in terms of mods to, make these faster, some people supercharge them, some people have turboed them. There's a lot of things to do, but it's just a little bit harder, which is one of the quirks about a J series engine. So there's two ways to tell an Accord V6 manual from an Accord V6 auto. The biggest one that you'll see is the wheels. This has 17-inch alloys. If you think that they look familiar, they're on the older gen TL Type S, which is interesting. They're just slightly different. The other way is the red emblem on the trunk. That's the only two things you could tell from the outside that Honda's done. Some people, though, put the red badge on an auto. We know who you are. So there's two ways to get into the trunk of your 2006 Accord. The first way is inside, pulling the little lever. There's no keyhole in the back, but if you press and hold the trunk button, it'll pop open. Now I like that this opens a little bit more. There's some springs in there. These have big trunks, 14 cubic feet of volume with the seats up. These just have a whole piece, folding rear seat, but you do have a pass-through, and you could fit two people in here comfortably. Believe me, from my high school times, you can fit two people in here. There's also a donut underneath, so you have a spare tire. That's something nice, but there's not really anything, extraordinary about the trunks of these. Let's get inside. Okay, so one of the things about these 7th gens that I've expressed in every 7th gen video is how big the second row seat is. The driver's seat is in my driving position. I'm 5'9". I have decent headroom. The headliner is sagging a little bit, which mine did that too. I don't know why old Honda headliners sag in all the same places, but I can fit my feet under the seat. This is a really spacious car. I mean, it's bigger than my GS over there in the back seat, and that's a pretty big car too. But one thing, after sitting in more rear seats, when I had my Accord, I didn't sit in many rear seats. Now I do. The bottom is kind of low. There's not a lot of thigh support. Well, if I normally sit down, I'm comfortable. And then there's an armrest in the middle over here with two cup holders, and then that pass-through. But there's a pillow with the flower. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing else back here. There's no cup holders in the middle. There's no air vents, no USB ports. That was actually something I put a USB port in mine. I figured out how to do that somehow. That was cool. Enough reminiscing. For this being the driver's car, excuse you. You have been excused. But for this being the driver-oriented version of the Accord, we have to sit in the driver's seat and take this thing for a drive. The first thing that I noticed is these neck pillows. I want to get them for mine. But that's something that I can touch about. The seats on these Accords are very comfortable. That's one of the things that I miss. They're not extremely soft, but for being a more, normal family sedan in the mid-2000s, the seats are actually pretty supportive, and they're full power, well, 8-way power with manual lumbar over here. The passenger seat is 4-way power and no lumbar, but they're very comfortable. I miss them. You also have a 4-spoke leather-wrapped wheel. The Odyssey of this era also shared this steering wheel, and I like it. I like 4-spoke wheels because you could put your hand, in the middle here, but audio and cruise control functions are on the wheel. The horn. In terms of interior quality, everything that you feel feels of quality. These cars don't feel cheap, even almost 20 years later. Of course, it's not like super soft leather everywhere, and like you're not gonna feel leather everywhere, but it feels nice. Nothing creaks or rattles when you push on it. It just is a nicely built car, and that's how a lot of these are. Something interesting about these mid-2000s Hondas is how the sunroof controls are on, like by your left knee instead of over here where the home link is, which is interesting. But small sunroof. These Accords, well, these Hondas of this era had smaller sunroofs, but I do like that you have a sunroof in this car. Looking in the center, you have the premium audio system in this car and the dual zone climate, but you have a 6-disc CD changer. In these, you could get an optional factory navigation system. Mine had the factory nav, and for being an old system, of course it didn't know some roads, but the screen was very responsive. And this, you have XM radio, at least the function for it, but no aux and no Bluetooth, of course. But these are very easy to put new radios in. Now you also have dual zone automatic climate control. All the functions are very easy. The 2 switches here, all the hard touch buttons. This is a very simple car, and I like the days, I like being in these cars where they're just a lot more simple. There's also a bunch of storage like above here. There's this ashtray that's not an ashtray next to a power outlet that's not a cigarette lighter. And then the center console, the armrest is not that soft, but it's okay. Then you have the 2 levels for the armrest over here, and then the driver and passenger side seats are heated. That's something nice, and the heated seats on these Hondas work really well, something that I really like about these. And of course, this is a 6.6. You have a 6-speed manual with short throws, very short throws. I'm excited to drive this, but it feels very nice, very clicky, snickety. Let's drive it. So I already have many impressions. First of all, I have a lot of feelings of nostalgia, driving this one, because it reminds me of my old one, because these have some like weight or substance to them. But also the clutch is very easy. I mean, it feels like a Honda. Hondas are easy to drive cars. The steering feels the same. The shifter is very clicky, very nice. I'm very intrigued. There's always people, but
what I would have done is just gone in the middle.
Oh, I'll go left. We're gonna see the 0 to 60, well, not 0 to 60. And now I'm learning. There's some rev hang, and that's what I had to get used to, because I keep thinking it's gonna be like an S2000 for some reason, because the shifter is so so like clicky fast. In S2000s you can bang, bang, bang between the gears very quickly. This, I mean, it makes sense because it's an Accord. It's more of a comfort. Well, comfort first. That's like the idea of this car. Damn, I missed how this car handles. Oh man, I miss how this handles. Now we'll turn AC on since I'm driving normal. Put myself in 5th and really be in like comfort. But that's kind of like, I had to just remember I'm driving an Accord. So that's why, there's more rev hang. They don't want people to be aggressively shifting with, I guess, kids in the car. But you could be a cool dad throwing the kids around in the car. It'd be nice. But this thing rides nice. Besides, the manual, like the clutch and the shifter itself, it feels just like any other 7th gen V6. Like, it feels like mine. The steering has a nice weight to it. The ride is not too firm. It's not really firm, I wouldn't say. It's just like the perfect mix of firm, but also nice and, you know, smooth. And when I'm driving normally, like taking off here, the clutch is very light. It engages about halfway. The shifter, like I said, very clicky. Feels very nice. But yeah, I had to get used to the rev hang, because at first I was like, what am I doing? I know how to drive stick. Let's see the corner. Wow. Yeah, I miss how mine drives. I miss how mine drives, because I used to thrash my car on back roads, but you know, that car had, you know, well, it was automatic. It had the, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4D, or 1, 2, 3D, and that's what I was always using. You know, second and third. The third gear on the automatic was strong, and the third gear on this is, I'm sure, strong on the highway. But these cars just have a nice feeling of nostalgia. Hondas are not like this anymore. They all feel, I mean, I like new Hondas, but they all feel light and very computer-like, which is something that, you know, I need to be able to see. Or I'll launch it from a straight so I'm not like idiot. Okay, we're gonna launch it. VSA is off. Strong, very strong. And the brakes are good too. That's something that I didn't talk about before. The brakes are good. You know, like for back road driving, for these being, you know, like a more mundane car, I'll turn the AC back on because it's hot. But for being, you know, more of a normal car, you know, because they didn't upgrade the brakes on these, you know, even if it is manual, like I think I don't know if the V6 and the 4 had different brakes, but like there's no, you know, Type R or Type S or SI for these, and the brakes are good on back roads. Like I remember from experiencing my car on back roads, really pushing that car. I mean, I did put better brake, like, you know, rotors and pads on it, but not that, you know, not that much. And these handle very well. If this van wasn't in front of me, I would actually, I'm gonna give him some space, and then maybe I can talk about how this car handles. You know, this is not like, I'm not, you know, able to go too quickly here, but like it's pretty flat on corners. I'm not anywhere near the limits of this car. That's also something that I miss about mine. This is all like nostalgia about, you know, like my old car, but I really learned the limits of this chassis on a back road. Like my days of high school back road driving were very crazy. Sometimes they still can be in my own car. Let's see, I'm gonna turn off AC again and do a bit of another. It's very smooth power. Hello, Dodge Stratus. Very smooth power. Like, and I don't feel like I'm doing the speed that I'm doing. But there's this road that's a bit more twisty that we're going to experience more of the curbs, because before I let you guys go, I want to talk about the curbs. Like, well, you know, well, how this car takes curbs. Like, I'm nowhere near the limits, because the road that, like this road, it's not the best for talking about how a car handles, because, you know, it's not like there's no lane markings on it. I can't really speed, but the car takes the corners that I'm taking. Well, I thought that road was pleasant, but fun. It's fun. Like, and the torque. This doesn't have a lot of torque, and that's also something. You have to whine this engine out. But these engines love to scream, especially with a cold air intake. Like my car, I had an intake on mine because, like, it sounds good. It sounds good. I just wouldn't straight pipe it like how high school Bern did it. That was too loud. Too loud and too drony. So, the main question that I had for myself is whether these are worth it over the automatics. Now, everyone knows that already, because in the nearly 3 years I had my automatic Accord, you could feel, especially comparing it to this and then other friends with 6-speed V6 Accords, you could feel how the auto was holding that car back. The manual really changes this. Of course, it's not going to be like a muscle car, but for being a, you know, a sleeper, this is a hell of a car. This is a hell of a car to daily drive, and I'd buy one of these again if I had the money, but they're all expensive. This has 200,000 miles, and other ones with 200,000 miles are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 grand. Some are even more than that. And the coupes, you could get these in a coupe too, and the prices on those are crazy too. But I could talk all day about these cars. But thank you for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Hopefully you liked this video. I enjoyed filming and driving this car. But I'll see you in the next video. Bye, peeps.